Hello and welcome to Redeeming Thunder. My name is Erica. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ring the notification bell because this prophetic word is regarding your prodigal daughter. And you're not going to want to miss this word. This is a repeat word that is also contributes to a recent prophetic word that I received just the other day through a dream. Your prodigal daughter is needing your prayers in this hour. And upon elaborating details of the dream, you will understand why. I'm going to share the prophetic word that was given to me on 1/24/2024 first. And the Most High says, "My sana." And what that means is wish for a child. And then I hear him say, pray for her. This is a project rescue for the prodigals. Toric Ignite upon entering the promised land. As I continue to pray, I hear Neema Shana. Naim means to be pleasant, to be delightful, or sweet. In this hour, in this revolution of time. Okay? To repeat, to change. That's what Shana stands for. It also means right now, in this hour, okay? In this revolution of time. So, during this time frame, you are, as a parent, you are to be understanding, sweet, and pleasant, and accepting. Okay? Offer sound advice and offer kindness. And be a sweetheart motherly figure to your daughter. Okay? That's going to be a key factor that goes hand in hand with the prayers. Then I hear Toric Shana, which Toric stands for torch, firebrand, flame view, or combustibles. Now, Kol means here thus far, Shana, in this revolution of time, to repeat, change, okay? In other words, back in the day, around January 24, 2024, the Most High had given you the assignment to send through firebrand for your daughter's rescue. Okay? And it's giving the story of when Sansom lit the fox's tails, tied them together, and then sent them out, and they pretty much lit the whole town on fire, right? Recall that? So, now, that's what's going on right now. Right now in the heavens and now on earth, okay? You're sending forth angelic assistance to send forth arrows of burning darts to the enemies. Okay? Why? Because the enemy has a hold of your daughter and they don't want to let go. And your daughter now is coming to terms, reaching a point where she's going to be reaching out and she's going to want some assistance. But there's something that is holding her, that's not letting her go. And that's why I'm trying to tell you. You're going to need to send forth these fiery darts that heavenly host is going to have to assist, because the monsters that she's up against, there's way too many. And I will elaborate further regarding what she's up against regarding the dream that I had just the other day. Okay? It was quite alarming. That's what I want to share. So now on Judges 15:4, and it said, and Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took firebrands and turned tail to tail and put a firebrand in the midst between the two tails. A firebrand in such a position, if sufficiently ignited to kindle a blaze in the shock of corn, would soon have burnt itself free from the tails of the foxes, or have been extinguished by being drawn over the ground. So what's going on is there's a rage that's occurring, and the Most High is enraged of what's going on, of how they have entrapped your prodigal daughter. Okay? And this is a confirmation word. There was a subliminal clue that she had sent me a while back. And back in April. And now I'm recording this word in June. So I'll elaborate further regarding that as well. Now, this torch. Now, this torch is quoted by the prophets as a symbol of great anger and destruction. Zechariah 12:6, and it also is stated in Isaiah 7:4. So it compares to Rezin, king of Syria, and the king of Israel, two bitter enemies to Ahaz, king of Judah, to two tails of smoking firebrands. And why does the Most High want us to pray for the prodigal daughter in this hour? Because it's appointed times for them to return. Okay? And they're needing this rescue. On 6/22/2026, in the sub-days I hear, start with January 24. And I saw January 24 in the vision. So with that clue, I researched what that, in my email, I researched my notes. And upon researching, which was very fascinating because I received that specific detail the same day, or the next day after receiving this very alarming dream regarding monsters and the prodigal daughter. Okay? So when I researched what information entailed with January 24, it was my Sana, wish for a child, pray for her. It was the prodigal daughter. So it's all tying together. And the Most High wants me to put this prophetic word right now in the month of June, because it's appointed times of the rescue needs to happen now. Okay. Now, I'm going to dive into the dream. So while I was having this dream, I recall in the dream having a lot of hip pain. And also, I heard the word programming in the dream. So now I'm going to be explaining the dream and then the interpretation of the dream. I saw I entered a mansion home at first. It was a very amazingly enormous home, beautiful, with elaborate wood trim and They had some architecture, okay, that looked just so glamorous. Upon looking out, there was huge window panels that you could see forest right outside the outside, okay? So there wasn't any curtains covering the windows. So basically an open panel view of the forest. And it looked to be kind of like a gloomy night, getting like a rainy day. So it looked to be kind of gloomy outside. So I arrived at that home because I was looking for my daughter. And I knew that she was going to arrive at this same house. I got a tip that she was going to be at this house. Okay? So there were other people in the home, a man and a woman and some children who owned the home. So the adults there seemed to not know that there was some other agenda occurring in the home. So I was waiting for her to arrive. But prior to arriving, there was what seemed like loud noise, like stomping, like loud stomping noises, like if a terrible, humongous monster was coming. Okay. And it seemed like there was an eerie feeling all around the home on the outside, like if there were stalking and or like there was a collaboration of enemies all around outside of the home. And it just felt kind of creepy and a little scary in the dream. It felt uneasy. So naturally I became a little worried for her because she's trying to get to this house and now there's a lot of like monsters outside of the home. Okay? And I was worried that she wasn't going to make it there to meet me there because of all of this chaos that was occurring all around. And I knew that I needed to save her. Okay? As I was waiting, I recall my hip began to hurt very bad in the dream. I was still standing and now I saw where she was coming from. A portal had opened up to the side. And that portal looked to have like water waves. It was transparent, but you could see like a water wave imprint. And it looked like a big bubble, clearish bubble. And on the other side was a hospital lab or some kind of clinic. It looked like a clean room hospital with a hospital bed, and it had tile walls, and everything was monochromatic of a dull or a light dull blue, a blue hue. Okay? And she was coming from there. So she had stepped into the home from that portal of the hospital room. Okay? And she arrived and was glad to see me. But she says she can't stay long because they will come after her. And they will know that she's gone and had left. And I asked, who will know? Who's not letting you go? And she said she had to go back. And she looked to be nervous and fearful of these individuals that were threatening her. And it was scary to think, because during that time, the stomping was these monsters, but they looked like dinosaurs, like T-Rex. So enormous. And they were like right outside the house. And it seemed like these large creatures were after her. Okay? And they knew she had escaped. And they were already at the destination before she even arrived, but she still came anyway. And she gave me a little bit of hints, a little bit of clues to go off on. Suddenly, I could see through the house roof, and there was a spaceship hovering over right outside, and there was a light, and it was beaming out, and they were looking for her. And I said, wait, I can help you escape. We were next to a table when we were discussing this. Then we moved to hide beside a couch. So we were crouched down beside the couch. Now my hip pain was hurting even more. And she knew she was in a system. She felt like she couldn't get out. She felt like all options were obsolete. Okay? And the enemy was using scare tactics, such as these monsters stomping about, and all this high tech with surveillance to keep her tied. Okay? And then I had an unction that she has been programmed to think a certain way. Okay? And I felt something internally, some warmth, some fire in my body. As I was writing this down, that exact piece where it says that she needs to be deprogrammed, I felt a fire come upon me, and I felt it on the back of my neck, on my back, upper back, and on the front of my neck and chest. That's a side note when I was writing this down. But continuing on, when I felt that she needed to be deprogrammed, in the dream, she suddenly started to manifest what looked to be that she was snarling, and she began to growl, and she began to scream, and she began to manifest what looked like possession. Okay? And it seemed like the spaceship was calling her back. But just her being next to me was causing her to manifest. So in that moment, she stayed put. Even though she was being called forth, right? To return. And I stretched my hand out in the dream, and I began to pray for her in the spirit. And she began to scream. Her face was distorting, and she was getting delivered from a demonic powers that were controlling her, and she was becoming deprogrammed from the manipulation. And then I just suddenly woke up. Now, before I get into the interpretation of the dream, there was a time in April when she was communicating to me about a show. She hadn't reached out in such a long time. Now, I want to give you a little backtrack. That her father had taken my children and not allowed me my parenting time. Okay, and they took off for several years, going on close to 5 years now, and I didn't know where they were. So it was absolutely devastating and emotional turmoil. Okay? Meanwhile, during that time frame, about 4 years ago, I was awakened to my prophetic gift, crying out to the Father, my Heavenly Father, and He has been revealing all of the generational curses and how to break them off and how to deprogram, pray for deliverance and deprogram individuals, especially in the marine spirit kingdom. Okay, anointed for such a time to assist people in anointing, in this anointing assignment. And so this has been a process of 4 years of trying to find them, meanwhile also discovering this prophetic gift and becoming one with an alignment of my destiny and assisting others to be delivered from this bondage and generational curses. Okay, meanwhile, okay, so during that time in the month of April, I had reached out prior to that, finally finding them the address. Let me backtrack a little bit. Finding them and trying to get their address and trying to get my parenting time established again. And what happened was they were against me. The father put them against me. And then there had been more dismantling of programming, okay, all this time. But the Most High is highlighting her in this hour, in the month of June. Highlighting her to pray for the prodigal daughters in this hour to return. Okay? During this time frame, she had sent a some trying to bond, and it was matching another prophetic word regarding the prodigal daughter returning in her new heart and reaching out and bonding with the 2000s music, and we were connecting in that way. And she was trying to share, her interests. So she had shared this show that she was watching, and then I shared a show that I was watching during that time frame, and it had a lot to do with restoration of a mother and daughter relationship. Ironically, obviously, it was purposeful. The Most High guided us to watch these shows. But she shared the title of the show, and I shared the title of the show. And anyways, I got to start watching the show that she told me to watch. And it had a lot to do with a daughter looking for her mother. Her mother took off out of nowhere and was in danger. And she was trying to tell... They finally met in episode 16. They finally met at this place, and the mother was scared for her life because there was someone following her and not allowing her to reunite with her family. Okay, and so this dream correlates quite a bit regarding that. And then the show that I was inclined to watch was a teenage daughter was having a hard time connecting with her generation, and she would jump in this lake accidentally at first, but then realized when she fell in, she went back in time into the time frame that her mother was a teenager, and she ended up being BFF with her own mother as a teenager. And then she would go back, jump back forward in time into her present time, and it was back and forth, and that's how she got to bond with her mother. And that show was basically connected with what was really going on in the prophetic dream regarding her and connecting with the songs and telling her she's a new person, okay, with a new heart, and she's apologizing for ways she went astray from her mother. Anyway, so this is appointed times now, okay, for your prodigal daughter. And now, recently she had reached out, and it had something to do with a medical appointment that matched just alongside this dream regarding a hospital. Okay, so the Most High gives clues regarding the time frame and the appointed times. You got to have high discernment in order to understand what's going on. I'm going to break down what each category means. My 3-year-old son also has been having dreams regarding stomping and dinosaurs, T-Rexes, and him winning the battles against them. Okay, so even though we cannot see what's going on in the spiritual realm, right now it is evident that there are giants and monsters out there, and there are certain spirits that are tied with certain characteristics that are tied to certain animals that are in the dreams. But quite consecutively now, he has been receiving dreams regarding dinosaurs, and then or aliens. My other 6-year-old son, he also received dreams regarding aliens recently, and it was going on for quite consecutively. And so I write these dreams down because we're a prophetic family, and now it's tying in to my dream. So please listen on, because we're going to pray together at the end of this to break all ties of the enemy, break strongholds, and all bondage will be broken in the name of Yahusha. Offer your daughter's life, all deprogramming, okay? So the biblical meaning of hearing stomps and dinosaurs, a portal showed a hospital medical room where this girl had been coming out from, and a spaceship outside appeared. I heard the word programming. A girl escaped trying to get to her mother, yet urgency fear was forced to go back. A spaceship appeared. She was scared that her mother would get hurt, or others she cared about would get hurt, and her mother began to pray and set her daughter free. Daughter was acting possessed when prayer occurred. That's a summary of what the dream was about, and now I'm going to break down the interpretation of the dream. This dream is a powerful spiritual metaphor about feeling out of control, battling overwhelming forces, and finding freedom and healing through faith and a mother's intercession. The various symbols represent key themes in your spiritual life. Stomps and dinosaurs. In dreams, giant prehistoric creatures often symbolize facing ancient or overwhelming obstacles, or a destructive outside force that feels entirely beyond human control. They represent an intimidating, looming fear that has been disrupting your peace. Hospital and portal. Hospitals and dreams are tied to healing, recovery, and vulnerability. The portal in the hospital room represents a place where the girl was undergoing a hidden or intense treatment or transformation. Spaceship and programming. Spaceships point toward a spiritual journey, stepping into the unknown, or feeling out of this world. Hearing the word programming strongly suggests that there are outside influences, worldly ideologies, or generational strongholds that have attempted to dictate her thoughts and actions. Possession and urgency. The possession and the urge to hurt loved ones highlight a severe spiritual battle. It reflects the feeling of being overcome by dark, negative emotions like fear, anxiety, or anger that make a person act in a way contrary to their true nature. The mother's prayer. This is the resolution of the dream. A mother's prayer represents the power of intercession, standing in the gap for loved ones, breaking spiritual chains. The daughter's acting possessed during prayer is symbolic of the spiritual realm reacting to the power of Yahuwah as it casts out darkness. Overall, the dream is showing you a spiritual battle being waged, but it ends with a message of hope. It highlights the importance of spiritual protection, prayer, and divine intervention in overcoming external influences that cause fear and distress. So overall, in the dream, I did not see her go back. We were still in the middle of praying. So that means you continue to intercede for your prodigal daughter to return. So pray with me in the Spirit. We are anointed for such a time as this. Mothers who are standing for their prodigal daughters to return. In the name of Yahusha. Shala Shama Shika Ali Ama Sika Alika Shirabakashi Amasi Aki Akasa Amati Sikai Shapa Alasi Sikai Amati Ororo Koshi Sikai Amaka Aliti Sikai Shalakoyama Tika Shama Akoya Pashi Akama Sikai Aravata Ashiyamako Sika Arika Shalati Anika Shalaya Koshiapa Tikai Kashikamakasi Alalalakashi Ali Ama Akai Kashaniama Akia Rakashiama Atakashia Koshakai Sama Atakashamata Ala Ali Arabaka Atakashi Abati Abokoshi Ama Atakashama Ali Atarakashi Atakashalati Akai Koshana Atakasholo Otolo Koshiyama Atakashala Apaka Ashiyama Dikashala Ika Arabata Shinama Inama Aman